Hi, my name is Johannes. I moved here with my family when I was about 21 months old. So I was raised in Montreal. We're from Kerala, which is in the south of India. So if India goes like this, we're at the very bottom tip of it. My parents moved here because they wanted a better life for their children. My father is the youngest of 12 children, and in our custom, the youngest one is the one who's supposed to take care of the parents. And so he was supposed to stay in their family home and take care of his parents. But he knew that it was not going to work very well. He and his father fought all the time, and his father actually, my parents both worked as teachers in India, and they had no money because as soon as they came home, they had to hand over their paychecks to my father-in-law, or my grandfather rather. So when they decided they need to do something different for their children, and they decided to move to Canada because my uncle was already living in Montreal. So we applied for immigration. My dad came first in July, and then we came 3 months later at the end of September. And my parents were both teachers in India. My dad got a job by the end of September working as a teacher for the Montreal Catholic School Commission, and worked for probably about 30 or 40 years. He retired around 60. My mother started working, but her accent was very strong. They were both high school teachers, but her accent was too strong, and she's a tiny Indian woman. She was like she's not that small, but she's like 5'4", and she was teaching math, and she found it really difficult, so she actually never worked as a teacher here. But my dad always did, and he did for many years. And he loved teaching, and he has this huge passion, and I used to think, oh my God, can you imagine Dad as a teacher? But I had friends who had him, and as he was a social studies teacher, so he'd teach geography and history, and so I always think it's funny that my dad is teaching Canadian geography and Canadian history as an immigrant from India, but he had so much passion for it that he loved it. And anyway, he retired. He's now 80, almost 83, and funny enough, 3 years ago he moved back to India, and he lives in India now. But this is a man who loved Canada, loved being part of everything, and would teach. And now in India, he's actually teaching English to the people that he lives in. He lives in a nursing home, and he teaches them Canadian, or how to speak English. So, yeah. So I think my brother and I were born in India, and we moved here. My sister was born in Canada. So she always jokes that she's the only Canadian in our family because the rest of us are all immigrants. And you know, it's kind of weird. I don't really think of myself as an immigrant and when people talk to me on the phone or see my name, because I go by Johannes, they never imagine this brown face. And then they see me in real life and they kind of go, oh, okay. And they don't connect the brown face to who they've spoken to on the phone or whose name they've seen in an email. And I've been lucky because all of my life I went to school with immigrants, and so I was just another immigrant's kid. I was never viewed as different. And I remember in my second year of university when one of my friends said, oh, you'll get hired as a token. And I looked at him and I said, a token what? And he's like, a token for, non-white person. And I'm like, oh. And that's when I realized that I was different. So to me at 21, when I realized that I wasn't the same as everybody else, that was such a huge eye-opener for me. But I find as I get older, I'm more and more aware that I am different. And I was telling this story to a friend of mine recently that whenever I travel and people say, where are you from? I say, I'm Canadian. When people ask me here, where are you from? I say, I'm Indian. And I don't think, and I was telling this to a friend of mine who's white, and she was like, really? And I don't think, I never even actually realized that until a few years ago, that that's the way my reality is. That people here, no matter what, still see me as not from here. Even though I have no accent, even though my name is very Anglo-Saxon, it's still, I'm not from here.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, I don't think I have any more questions. What made you come to British Columbia after you lived in Montreal?
So I used to be an accountant, and I worked for a large accounting firm, like one of the largest in the world. And I was either going to, I used to see there was 3 ways you can continue in the firm. You were either white, you were male, so I had 3 strikes against me, rather. I was a woman, and if I was a woman and francophone, it would have been okay, but I wasn't. I was an anglophone. I was a woman, so I was a woman, I was an anglophone, and I was a minority. And Quebec is very racist in a lot of ways, and so I thought, there's no way I can actually stay here. And so I never wanted to move to Toronto, and my brother lived out here. I came to visit him, and I fell in love with Vancouver. And so I've been here mostly ever since. I did a 1.5-year stint in London in that about a year after I lived here, but mostly this is my home now. So.
Amazing. Did your family stay there?
So my parents stayed in Montreal until my dad moved to India. My mom is still there. My siblings both live here. We all migrated here at some point or the other.
Amazing. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
So, in your own perspective, what other challenges you think your family, when they first came, they faced when they tried to settle here?
So, we were really lucky, and I realize that all the time now when I work with newcomers who, my parents were teachers and they got jobs as teachers here, and now you can't do that. And I have met through the different things I do at work, lots of different professionals from around the world who come to Canada, and they can't get jobs here from where they're from. So they have to retrain or do something different. And we were lucky because my parents could work as teachers there. And it was the time in the late 60s and early 70s where Pierre Trudeau was very open about accepting Canada and accepting immigrants into Canada. And I think that made a world of difference. I don't think people would come here as much. And I'm always amazed when people still move here. But I have since realized it's just because people move here for their kids, for the freedoms and the opportunities that their kids can have. That no matter how good their life may have been in their home country, they never really feel as safe but that there is future for their children. And that's an amazing thing about Canada. You could be anybody and you could do well. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Actually, you got it.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You just have to work so hard. And I think that's what immigrants do. Pretty much every immigrant I've ever heard or known, they work so hard.
Yeah.
We all come here and my parents always did well. My dad was a teacher, and yet we had our home, we had a car, we did trips, and we got to go and do things. We were lucky. We didn't have everything. We certainly didn't have anything like kids nowadays have, but we were happy. My mom always cooked, and it was a different life. But they work hard and they want to be accepted. I think probably one of the biggest challenges was, there's still always my dad, despite living here, my parents, despite living here for over 50 years, they still have Indian accents. So they're still always, viewed as different. But they connected with people from their home country and from our community in India, and they made friends, and we had a lovely, in many ways, I have that connection. Even though we have very little family here, we had a lot of really good family friends, and those family friends became our family. And that sense of community and belonging, I think, is so important. But I think it's an immigrant experience too, that you end up having people to rely on. We used to have like potlucks all the time. We would have dinner parties with they weren't formal. Parents would sit upstairs, the kids would be in the basement, and everybody would bring food. But those are the people that to this day I'm really close with. And that's something that my husband doesn't have, having been raised here. But I have that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a connection to a community that is, that there are so many good things out of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even they're not blood, they are so close, right?
They are so close, yeah. Yeah, they are the family we chose.
It's amazing. Right? Yeah, so it's very powerful.
It is. It is so much more powerful. Like, you have that sense of belonging. Like, I love those people. And when we got married, many of them flew out here for our wedding. And I think they're the ones that I wanted to be here, not all my blood relatives. It was the family I grew up with.
Yeah. So amazing. Okay, it's an amazing story you have. Speaking about belonging, do you have any place you feel that you're home, like in Vancouver or somewhere around? You feel like you go there just to breathe, just to, I don't know, feel you. Do you have anywhere special?
I live near Deer Lake in Burnaby, mm-hmm. and I think that's where I've told my family that when I die, I want to have a bench and I want them to scatter my ashes there, because that is my comfort. It just gives me, it is a 10-minute walk from my house, and it gives me that sense of calmness that sometimes you need.
I would like to ask you if you want and if you know how to say our project name in your language.
You know what? I had to look it up, and when I got in my car, I said, "How do you say that again?" Because I can understand our home language very well, but I don't speak it very much. Mm-hmm. Because when my parents moved to Canada, my brother just started kindergarten, and they said to him, "Do not speak your home language at home. You have to speak English," because he didn't know any English. And this was a long time ago. That's what they were taught. So they only spoke to us in English for a few years, and we all lost our Malayalam. That's my home country, or my home language. So my brother speaks the most because he's 5, where he was 5 when we moved here. Although I was completely fluent, I talked more than as much as I talk now. I talked then. But we only spoke English at home. So it was only as we got older and we were in school and doing well that my parents started speaking to us in Malayalam more. And but funny enough, on the phone, my parents only speak to us in English. Oh. Not in person, but on the phone they do that. Which I think is so funny, but that's what they do. And even though we all understand it, they only speak to us on the phone. In person, they will speak to us in Malayalam, but on the phone, it's always in English. So, unless my mom is mad, then she speaks to us in Malayalam. That's how it works. So I don't actually know that's my long way of saying I don't actually know how to say it properly. So
okay, you can say it in English then. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You want to give it a try?
How do you say it? It's I can't remember it.
It's okay.
Nene kanam sandosha. That's something similar to that.
Thank you so much.
You're
nice
welcome.
to meet you too.